public that they wanted him to, that he would be activist, so that
when he comes back on the grid.
No.
Here we go. Bill, that's a candidate. Somebody needs to go over here. You got it.
Live tweet for us, Facebook Live.
This is my daughter. You just step right up.
I know there's a I'm not ready yet. You can't be fooled if you choose not to believe.
Silent waves.
Camera.
Oh, that's good. That's all I can do. Exercise my and I don't know how to do that. So see, we all need to watch my shoes. I have this very. You have possible questions? Possible questions?
No, tell me.
So why are you saying what you think it is? So you don't have to worry about the steps. I was afraid of getting here. Okay.
I can't get to the kids to be here. So I'll tell somebody else to bring them.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll be
I hope I don't screw it up.
Straight into the school.
supportive of education. Absolutely. I want teachers, firefighters, police officers, nurses. I want all of
And
those people.
I'm Carlene had asked me. Yeah.
Well, I'm not far. I'm on the end. I can walk right up when it's my turn. So my question for you is, are you Susie or Suzanne? Which would you prefer? I have to introduce you. Oh, I don't want to get it Yeah, I have a 19 I think so, but they said we're going to ask.
Are you in charge? I saw your name like you're in charge.
Lawyers versus Andy, someone says,
Time.
Good evening. Good evening. Amen. Certainly good to be here on tonight. I am here simply to welcome you to the 15th Avenue Baptist Church. We're the house of faith for the family. Thank you to Noah for putting this forum together so that the mayoral candidates can discuss and we can be informed about the leadership and issues affecting our city. I hope that each one of us listens intently and that we gain some insight that will help us as we cast our votes. Welcome once again, and know that we are glad that each one of you is here. Our next person on the program is Jane Borum from Christ Church Cathedral.
Welcome to responsible for the government they get. Voters have the ultimate authority. Tonight, you have a chance to evaluate each person running for mayor. You, the voter, have both responsibility and power at this stage of the mayor's race. Thank you for taking that job seriously. In a few minutes, you'll learn the rules for candidates in this meeting, as well as how you can participate. We thank you ahead of time for casting your vote and expressing your authority as an American citizen to keep democracy alive in Nashville. Listen, learn, vote. Our next speaker is Mr. Gathers from St. Vincent de Paul. No one told me that the Gathers on the program is a Ms. Gathers. Is that Reverend Gathers? No, Reverend. Thank you. May we center our minds and hearts as we bow our heads to pray. All good and gracious God, look with tender mercy upon the multitudes in this world today who bear the indignities of injustice everywhere. Raise up leaders in every land who will be dedicated to your standards of order, equity, and justice. Guide our minds to a meaningful understanding of the problems of the poor, of the oppressed, of the unemployed, of all in need of assistance anywhere. Mend in your soothing mercy all the broken in mind and memory. Soften the heart of heart and the captives of anger. Free the innocent and parole the trustworthy. And Lord, heal the victims of crime. They live with the scars. Grant families of the victims a forgiveness that heals their breaking hearts. Give wisdom to the lawmakers and to those who judge. And tonight and unceasingly, we pray for those who are hungry, and we pray harder for those who will not feed them. We pray for those who struggle to pay their bills, and we pray harder for the wealthy who do not care. We pray for those who are homeless, and we pray harder for those who deny them shelter. We pray for the sick and the lonely, and we pray harder for those who will not give them comfort. We pray for those who cry out for dignity, and we pray harder for those who will not listen. We pray for those who are oppressed by unjust wages, and we pray harder for those who exploit them. We pray for those who bear the yoke of prejudice, and we pray harder for those who discriminate against them. We pray for those whose basic needs are denied, and we must pray harder for those public officials who cater to the greedy and ignore those who are unjustly bound by unfair judgments and legislation. And dear God, let us never give up working for justice, or the oppressed in this world will one day ask, why? And let us never give up praying, for to give up is to deny our faith in a God who answers prayer. Ashe and Amen.
No, Nashville Organized for Action and Hope. We are an interfaith and multiracial coalition consisting of 61 congregations, labor unions, and community organizations. Our chief goal is to pursue justice and justice alone. NOAA does not endorse any candidate.
13 candidates were invited to this public meeting. Mr. Lula Wallace refused the invitation. The purpose of this public meeting with the mayoral candidates of Nashville is fourfold. Number one, to give the candidates an opportunity to share their vision for Nashville. Number two, to educate, empower, and encourage the Nashville electorate to vote. And NOAA believes an informed and voting electorate will help make Nashville a great city. To share NOAA's vision for our city through our three core issues. And our issues are affordable housing and gentrification, criminal justice system reform, and economic equity and jobs. And number four, to ask the candidates to make a commitment to work with NOAA in making Nashville a just city for all. There are several guidelines for this public meeting. Number one, you will notice that the candidates are seated alphabetically by their last name as appearing on the official special election ballot. And the series of questions will be asked in reverse order. Candidates are asked to please observe the time allotted for each question. Our timekeeper is Pat Harper. We'll ask that you would please stand. When you see the glow, represents 30 seconds. The yellow, 15 seconds. And the red, stop. And please do not be offended if Ms. Harper cuts you off. Now, each candidate has 1 minute to answer each task force and public question, and 30 seconds for the lightning round commitment question. And no questions have been given to the candidates in advance. Now, there will be a lot of time for questions from the audience. And these questions have not been shared with the candidates in advance. Everyone should have received an index card. If you want an index card, just raise your hand and someone will give you an index card. And if you would like to ask a question of the candidates, please send it on your card to the end of the hour to be collected. At 7 o'clock, the time will be cut off for any questions to be collected. And 2 questions will be selected to be asked by a NOAA member closer to the end of the public meeting. Now, candidates are asked to please stand when answering the question. The main reason is because you are not on the platform. You are seated there, but we want the person gathered to be able to see you. And we ask the candidates all, please, no crosstalk among the candidates. Now, to the audience, we ask the audience to avoid any expressions of support or opposition to any candidate during the questions and answers. And we ask also that you will please hold all applause until the end and be respectful to all candidates and the allotted time. We ask now to please turn off the cell phones or mute them. And finally, please no campaigning or candidates within this building. Candidates will be free to speak with voters outside the meeting. Again, please observe all the guidelines for this public meeting. At this time, the next person will be in Odessa.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, come on now. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. You out here on this Thursday, came through the rain, traffic in Nashville. We appreciate you being out here. Give yourself a round of applause. handsome young gentleman who came up before me, that is our president and our chair here at NOLA. I was supposed to introduce him, but as you can see, he was very excited to get up here and speak to all of you today. That is Reverend Thompson. He guides and leads us here at NOLA. We appreciate his leadership. My name is Odessa Kelly, and I co-chair the Economic Equity and Jobs Task Force here at NOLA. And I'm here to talk to you about why NOLA is important. Nashville organized for action and hope. Action and hope. Why do we need action and hope? If any of y'all ever came to a NOLA event, you know we've had the Tale of Two Cities and the Seat at the Table. We also have one called Speak Loudly. Those names are intentful and they resonate with the population of Nashville that sometimes is reactive to what happens to them. NOLA was intentionally formed so that we can be proactive in that process. We all have to be civically responsible. When I was in school, I made a lot of A's in calculus. When I got to college and had to vote for my first time, I had no idea how the process worked. Right? Had no idea how taxes worked. Had no idea how development and the decisions in my neighborhood were being made. I came home from college in East Nashville. There was people running down the street with many dogs and there were sidewalks. My new neighbor was a policeman and he waved. That was very new for me. And then my parents told me about something called gentrification because I was looking for a neighbor of mine who no longer lived there. Then I got a job and got to working, and before you knew it, I was 30 years old and upset with some of the amenities that I was not afforded in Nashville. And I got two degrees. Kanye was right, you can't eat all these books. Then it snowed one day, my kids were driving me crazy, and I came out to a NOLA meeting, and it changed my life. It gave me access to a part of Nashville that I never had access before. The first thing that resonated with me, they said the people have a right to have some power in what happens in their city. And there's two ways you do that. You organize people and you organize money. Thank you for always reminding me of that, Mike Hodge, how we organize it. One of the things I found out with NOLA too is that me, like many of you, I consider myself Christian, but my walk in faith has always been rocky. Until I came to NOLA and I found God in the NOLA meeting. I was like, oh, God's an activist too. Now we can rock this road together. And at that moment, I knew I would do anything for NOLA. I mean, absolutely anything. It helped me grow as a person, it helped me grow others, and it helped me be intentional about the person I was in my community. In order for us to do that, it costs money. It costs money for us to put on events like this. We appreciate you coming out, but we need those resources. Next Thursday, May 31st, 6:15, NOLA is having a fundraiser. We're having our spring banquet at Meharry Cal Turner Center. We want all of you to come out. When you go and you leave here, stop by the front desk and you buy you a ticket to this banquet. When you think about it, don't think about that you're just pumping money into something. Think about you are helping build your community, because that is what that fundraiser does. All right, I'm not going to take up much more of your time. Just want to make sure that you know to buy your ticket for our fundraiser before you leave here today. Thank you. Coming up, we have Ms. Paulette Coleman. She is the chair of our Affordable Housing Task Force, and she will lead off with our first question for the candidates.
Thank you very much. The question
is printed in the program. We will begin with Mr. Alford, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. And the question is, MDHA is a quasi-governmental organization that is basically separate from metro government, but has a great deal of power in downtown development, public housing, and affordable housing. The only influence that the mayor has over MDHA is appointing its board members. Recently, at least one affordable housing advocate was appointed to the MDHA board. Major for-profit developers have been a large presence on that board and continue to be. Are there possible conflicts of interest when major for-profit developers serve on the board that determines Nashville's development policies, and what will you do about such conflicts? Mr. Alford.
Thank you for having me and thank you for inviting me. To answer the question directly, let's not talk around the situation, let's talk specifically to the situation. Let's talk about MDHA. The mayor actually appoints or chooses someone to serve on the board, and then the city council affirms them. So if you have an issue with someone who is on the board, you have an issue with the process. Because between the mayor and the city council, MDHA Board of Commissioners gets appointed. So the question is, do I see a conflict with big-time developers being on there? Certainly there can be. What we need to do is an analysis if there is a conflict. If there is, then the mayor needs to address it by appointing the right people. You're not required to be the expert, but you're required to put the right people in place and then hold the city council accountable for who you put in place in order to rectify the affordable housing crisis.
Good evening. I'm David Riley, and I'll answer the question, I think, directly. Yes, there are potential conflicts of interest that arise under these circumstances, and it's up to the mayor to make sure that the ethical rules adopted by the council are enforced fairly. That's one part of it, and thoroughly as the MDHA board conducts its business. The other part is to make sure that the mayor appoints a balanced group of people that represent all perspectives as MDHA goes forward. But let me say that we need developers on the MDHA board, and let me tell you why. The biggest single housing development taking place in our community right now is in Vision Casey. And we need people with experience and perspective to help us go through that problem. Let me disagree with the question just briefly though. There are other things that the mayor can do. Every 2 weeks I meet with the MDHA board and they ask for help. They ask for funds to move the city forward in Casey. And as I make those decisions about what we can do to move Casey forward, I have influence over every decision that they are making.
My name is Ralph Bristol. I'm going to solve this the same way I solve all other problems of imbalance on all other boards and commissions in Nashville, and that is we are going to have balanced representation on that board and every other board. The acting mayor is right. We do need representation by developers on that board, but we also need equal representation by NOAA and equal representation by other stakeholders, and the job of the mayor is to make sure that all voices, all opinions, all stakeholders are represented and represented equally so that all voices are heard, and then the mayor and the city council can make an informed decision that does the best job possible of pleasing all the valid stakeholders when it comes to housing or transportation or healthcare or anything else. And that is going to be one of my main jobs as mayor, is to make sure that there is equal and balanced representation on all of those boards.
Thank you, Jeff Car. Over the last 3 months when I was out in communities from Bellevue to Bordeaux fighting this transit plan, what happened is I learned a lot of things about how city government works. And apparently it was not a transit plan. It was a downtown development increasing plan that was designed to increase the development of areas downtown by the rail. And that's why it went out. There are possible conflicts of interest on the MDHA board, and I'm not going to be afraid to say it because I don't politically owe anybody anything. It came to light that there were possibly people involved with MDHA recently who owned land on the transit corridors where the transit centers were going to be placed. The D in MDHA is for development. So it's important for us, if we're going to develop fairly for the entire city, that a mayor exercise the political will to A, remove any conflicting interests that are on the decision-making spaces like MDHA, and B, make sure that the development is spread equally throughout the city.
Ms. Clark Johnson.
I've heard a lot since I've been doing these forums about affordable housing, regarding affordable housing. understand it's a major concern. I've done my research, and I just want to share with you what I have found. 127 mayoral candidates across the country are concerned about the same affordable housing as well. However, after doing my research, I want to let you know and try and educate you on what's going on. They're losing their populations in these cities. However, Nashville differs. I think that the group, that the development team that's serving are good because they're experts, they know what they're doing, and Nashville is not in trouble in any kind of way in regards, likewise, as the same as the other cities. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Erica Gilmore, and I'm a candidate for mayor. I think under affordability, we talk about equity, diversity, and accountability. And I think that's what Metro Housing Development Authority needs. And I know as a council member, a lot of the questions that we ask when we choose members for those boards, the mayor says, are you a registered citizen? Do you vote? We ask questions very general like that, but we need to ask, do you have conflicts of interest? Where your property may lie. There's nothing wrong with being a developer, but we do want to make sure that you are equitable in your decisions. We want to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table. And I think that is what is most important. And as we move forward, to have a plan and a goals, and if it deals with equality and diversity and having many people at the table, we can achieve those goals, and Metro Housing Development Authority can achieve those goals that we have for the city and then make everyone feel better with accountability and transparency. And as a mayor, you are offering up the people that will sit on those boards. So we have different groups that we go to, and I think that would make it a lot better and more transparent because it's coming from you, the people. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Albert Hacker. I'm running for mayor as well. Thank you for having me. My mom was actually on the planning commission for 16 years here in Nashville, so I understand the importance of having balance on a board, sitting make decisions. You should never have someone that has a conflict of interest in that position where they're going to profit or benefit in some sort of way, so that's an obvious point to be made. I think we should incorporate a balance to make sure we have people in development and have financial acumen to understand the tasks and the time frames that need to go in place for those kinds of things. But we also need to make sure that we're having transparency so we don't have a conflict of interest for the government itself and for the city itself. When we may have an overfunded, unnecessary project that's taking tens of millions of dollars for something that's only going to serve a little bit of people, and we can pump those funds into a project that's going to have a greater good for things like affordable housing and other projects that a government will incorporate itself to produce for the common good for people. But anyway, so to keep it short, thanks again. Look forward to answering the questions, and I think we should keep everything balanced and transparent.
Hello, my name is David Holland. I'm running for the office of mayor. I was raised in East Nashville. I know James Casey very well. Let's make no mistake about it. Affordable housing is big business. We know that. Major for-profit developers is just what it is. For-profit. I think that the board should be equally balanced with citizens, advocates for affordable housing. And you need some for-profit developers because they got the knowledge. But that needs to be equally balanced throughout the whole board. My name is David Holland. I'm running for mayor. Thank you.
Good evening. Harold Love, also running for mayor. One of the challenges with government boards and commissions is the desire and need to have a certain level of expertise on that board without having conflicts of interest. We talk about MDHA, we need to have not just for-profit developers, but also non-profit developers on the board. We also need to have people who have experience with the MDHA as a person living in one of the properties to also talk about ways that can be improved. So when we talk about the need to have a equitable board in metro government, let's look at ways to also include everybody, because the expertise found in our city can be found in every part of our city, every neighborhood, because you just don't know who might be able to lend an important perspective that just wasn't there before. So it could be a conflict there. I guarantee you, if I'm elected, I'll make sure everybody has an opportunity to look at the boards and commissions appointment process and also offer up names that have expertise that wasn't included last time. Thank you.
Jeff Becker. I'm running for mayor as well. I don't think this is definitely a conflict of interest with for-profit developers being in the board. They're appointed by the mayor, and if they do not get screened properly and get non-profit developers in there, people who don't stand to benefit financially, this is a definite problem with the integrity of the mayor's office. And they need to be screened if they find problems, like, they're major builders will profit. They need to go on to the next candidate and look to see who's the next best that fits the bill.
Hello. Turns out at this mayoral forum, I'm also running for mayor. But yeah, oh goodness, this question it's almost like you want to feel like it's rhetorical. We shine so bright here. Is there corruption downtown? I don't know, maybe we could flesh it out with the Socratic method and kind of hammer away at some points. Sure. We got corporate welfare kind of masquerading as public service. Is there hypocrisy? Yeah, what? Of course there is. But I think what's interesting though is that it's not just here at Metro, it's the state's looking down here and they're saying they have rent control methods in place because it's outlawed by statute. So what we have here is, oh dang, I don't have time. The Casey Homes is a great example where Metro can take the lead and actually have its own affordable housing initiative in place. But let's lay off the tax break for people that have plenty of money. That's kind of my thing. That's it.
Thank you for being here. My name is Carol Swain, and I do believe that there are potential conflicts of interest, not potential, there are conflicts of interest, not just on MDHA, but also on other boards. And I believe that there are some people who have been sitting in those positions too long, and that we need to create opportunities for developers as well as individuals who have been shut out. And so that would be one of my priorities. When it comes to affordable housing, I have spoken to contractors and developers who say that they would like to build houses that cost $150,000 or less, but they have not gotten the corporation for Metro. And as your mayor, I would work with those contractors and developers, and I would also work with HUD to see what can be done for people who are the poorest of the poor. So I would appoint new, fresh blood, get fresh people there, as well as look at ways to help people who are truly poor. Thank you.
Thank you. Now Ms. Dewana Wade of Salama Urban Ministries will come and ask the candidate question on criminal justice.
Good evening. Our questions this evening will be answered from Ms. Swain, going back to Mr. Alford. MNPS has alarming racial disparities in suspensions and expulsions, often dumping students onto the school-to-prison pipeline. Dr. Joseph's proposed budget included full funding for restorative practices and proven ways to keep kids in school. In light of the inadequate increase in MNPS funding proposed by the current mayor, what will you do to ensure adequate funding of these strategies?
Well, first of all, I raised two sons, and they spent part of their high school in North Carolina, part in Princeton, New Jersey, and what happens here has been happening, for the last 30 or 40 years, so that's not new. What I would do about the shortfall is I would like to be elected on May 24th so that I can influence the budget process. If there's a runoff, there's no opportunity. I think there's a lot of waste. There are a lot of inefficiencies. There are some positions that may be redundant. And I think that we can find money to do things that we're being told that we can't afford right now. That would be my priority. It is a serious problem and we need new ways of thinking.
Me again. I think the great thing about restorative practice is that really you're talking about praxis of restorative justice theory. And that has actually turned out to be a pretty good approach. You get victims and the, let's call them the victimizers in the room. You talk to people, hey, you did a bad thing, why are you doing that? Let's get a bigger picture of what's going on. So from that, we could kind of extrapolate that restorative practice is going to be hard to pull off just in the school system. We need to think bigger. We need to look at how do we apply that socially in our society, because we're trying to, let's get rid of all the weird moral laws is where we need to start. We need to stop breaking up homes with some petty drug charges. We need to legalize weed. We need to decriminalize, we need to decriminalize drugs. We need to decriminalize prostitution, because these are matters of public health. They're not matters of the criminal justice system. Don't put that on the cops. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to go through someone's thing trying to find another weed. Let's deal with the real issues here.
It's hard to follow him without laughing. I'm sorry. Okay, everybody knows that we are taxed to death, basically, on the premise it is for the schools. Where's this money going? We've got this much tax pointing out of our tax, or this much percentage of our taxes for schools. Where's it going? That money needs to go to the schools to make sure that they are getting the proper education they need, the proper needs, addressing school bullying, which is part of my platform, and also the security as well. And, after school programs or whatever, these things need to be taken care of, and don't let the kids kind of slip through the cracks and just go to school and go home and then go off and get in trouble. So with that said, we need to make sure that the money goes to the schools it's supposed to go to the schools, and not, to it's an amphitheater just for say, or whatever, something like that.
We have to explore opportunities to engage our business community in supporting programs in our school system. We already have opportunities now with the pencil programs. We have the academies in our high schools. And I would bet to venture that many of our business partners will be willing to also support many of our programs in our schools when we have budget shortfalls, to make sure that these programs keep on existing. A few years back, our elementary schools adopted a program from the federal government called My Brother's Keeper, but there was no money attached to it. It was dependent on corporate partnerships coming in and saying, we will help undergird the program. I think that same model can be used now to also make sure we talk about restorative practices, because it's also a good corporate partnership to have your employees engaged in supporting our school system. Comcast Care does a great job every year going out and painting our school buildings and restoring them physically. We need businesses to go in and restore our schools mentally and emotionally by supporting our schools' children. Thank you.
I graduated from Stratford High School in 1993. It was more of an inner city school at that time, and a lot of the teachers didn't really understand what was taking place at home. The same thing is going on today. I think that the teaching profession can become a more attractive profession if the wages were increased. I also believe that we can leverage our relationships with businesses such as Nissan, the Predators, the Titans, any of those people, any of those businesses to fund our schools. They need money. They have to have it. And if I'm mayor, I'll definitely leverage those relationships and find it. I'm a man about the community. I'll find it.
So a friend of mine, he gave me a quote here today, and I thought it was pretty profound. So Confucius said, the best way to change a nation is to start in the home. So that's kind of been a unifying, sort of overall sense of my campaign is how do we make our community stronger. So if we can enable a community to better serve itself, then it's only fitting that the system that's supposed to serve it will more fittingly serve that community. So my specific initiatives, you can find them on alberthackerformayor.com, shameless plug, is the Nashville Better and my IPTO initiatives. The Nashville Better will strengthen us from a familial sense to create more of a provider instead of a survival role. It'll create healthier and stronger families and healthier children. It'll engage after-school activities from nonprofits. And at the same time, the IPTO will unite our PTO systems from all the grade systems to have a more unified front and collective organization to share information and take that system back to board meetings to drive accountability and transparency from our board, so those needs are being met more effectively from a unified community.
Erica Gilmore. I won't say I'm running for mayor because I think you already know that. But I think people are fed up. And what I appreciate about NOAA is they put together a best practice of social emotional learning. It was a best practice that was put forth, and they asked us to fund it as a city. Well, they gave it to the mayor, and the mayor gives it to us. At this point, we need to do a tax readjustment. People don't want to talk about it, but we can readjust it, and in the past we have done that. We know that 37208 has the highest number of kids that go to prison in the whole entire United States. That's not just here, that's here in Nashville. So we need to put that forward. We believe the children really are first, and we want to break that pipeline. We need to do an adjustment. In the past, we have done it. Every year when we've done the budget, we have moved away from that. But we need to get back to it, put our kids first, and put a stop at this prison to pipeline. We know what the answers are. We just have to make the tough decisions. And that would be doing a rate adjustment when we do our assessment of the taxes. Thank you so much.
This issue is very personal with me in regards to children. As an educator, I've taught thousands and thousands of K-12 students. In fact, something that you guys didn't know, Michael Brown, AKA Mike, was one of my students. Our students are in need of funding for behavior modification programs. We don't want to suspend or expel students. Teachers don't do that, the administrators do. However, I think a good idea, I would support, as mayor, any monies geared toward educational programs, because I highly support them. However, I would also like to ask for the parents' help in discipline. I'm sorry.
This is a particularly sensitive issue to me because growing up, I went through a period where I was what we used to call a BAC, B-A-K. B is for bad, K is for kid, I'll let you fill in the middle. But I made it through and barely escaped the school to prison pipeline. My wife and I have 4 children who are in 3 different public schools, and I think they're over there. Thank y'all for coming in, Wave. So this is important for me. Car administration is about intersectionality. So when we look at resources and streamlining resources, we have to make sure that the priorities that I have, which is transit especially, you don't have transit without affordable housing built into it. Truly affordable housing, not just the AMI, but income-based affordable housing. You don't have affordable housing built in without a plan built in to help fund public schools and to create youth violence programs that are effective, that can support in-school, after-school, and before-school programs. When you create the best practices that then can be transdisciplinary, you make sure that you're going to budget that, fund that by streamlining, and then make sure that our kids are number one priority.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I've got 40 years of practice at that, so I may as well be the one to do it tonight. We don't have any more money to spend on schools or anything else, and we're not going to have for some time, so this is a perfect opportunity for we as a community to, instead of figuring out how to get more money, to figure out how to do a better job with the money we have. And Nashville Public Schools get about $10,000 a student. That's about the same amount that schools in approximately 20 other states get to educate their students, including California, where the cost of living is higher than it is in Nashville. I don't believe Nashville is doing a good enough job. I don't believe our schools are doing a good enough job with the money we give them now. And just like every other department in the city and every other function of the city, I am going to demand that at least for the next 5 years, because we simply cannot afford to give anyone more money, we are all going to have to learn how to do a better job with the same amount of money if we're going to do that.
David Briley, the current mayor, referenced in the question. Let me say, for starters, I'm a strong supporter of Dr. Joseph and what he's doing on restorative justice, as well as Judge Calloway. They're right on the right track. And this year, we were not able to send as much money as they requested, that's for sure. In part because we lost about $15 million in state funds that normally would have gone to the public school system. There's actually $20 million in new money, local money, going to the school system this year. That's not enough. I agree. And over time, I will work hard every single day to build the community support that is necessary for us to get more revenue to Metro Nashville Public Schools. It's what I've done since 1999 when I was first elected to the council. In my 8 years on the council, we increased funding to Metro Public Schools more than it has ever been done before. And I'm committed as mayor to work hard to make sure that we can do that as we go forward. This year, we're living within our budget, and there's not any more money than the money that has already been provided.
Carlin Alfred. The question was crafted. MPS has an alarming disparity of racial expulsions. The problem starts inside the school. My wife has been a school social worker at MPS for a number of years. She now lives in Williamson County. I've seen what happens at White Creek. I've seen what happens at Stratford. I've seen what happens at Glencliff. And the problem starts in the classroom. We don't have enough black male teachers. Period. Where we can rectify that, where I will agree with Ralph Bristol, is that there is no more money coming in this term election. But what we can do is partner with organizations and corporations in order to provide the programs. I'm in my 13th year with the National Christian Fellowship League, a basketball league that I created to keep young men off the streets. You know who came up in my system? James Shaw.
Thank you, candidates. Our next question will be asked by Suzanne Johnson from Antioch United Methodist Church.
This is for the Economic Equity and Jobs Task Force, and again, the question is in your booklet. There's broad consensus that despite the booming development in Nashville, many people are still being left behind. The building boom has created a large revenue shortfall in the city. It is easy to forget that many of the people who work for the city and in our schools are among those left behind. What is your plan to resolve the revenue shortfall in Nashville and provide city employees with a much-deserved and necessary cost of living increase? And I believe we're starting with Mr. Alfred if we're going back this way.
One word. Accountability. If I can send a message to Alliance Bernstein, the company that's moving here, their headquarters from New York here, next year, bringing 1,000 jobs to Nashville, ask them the question directly, how many of those are local hires, and you get the deer in the headlight look. 1,000 jobs at $150,000 to $200,000 median average. Where's the investment in Nashville? How many of those are going to be local hires? And if you bring those people to Nashville, the 1,000 people, you're bringing 1,000 residents. Are they going to live in Davidson County, where we get the taxes from their property value? Or are they going to live in Williamson County? Hold corporations accountable, and we can help bridge this gap. In my administration, I would go directly to the corporations and have them invest in our community in many different ways so that we can close this gap of disparity.
Thank you. I agree. There are too many people in our town who are being left behind as we grow very quickly. The growth is not the cause of the revenue shortfall, though. I mean, that's not what the cause is. I'd be glad to talk to you about what the cause is, but it is not the growth. And this year, 80% of all Metro employees, approximately, maybe 90%, will actually get an increase in their salary and their take-home pay. They won't get the cost of living adjustment, which I wanted to provide, but I could not, based on the revenues we currently have. I'm going to work hard all year to make sure that we trend, that we make sure we spend our money as wisely as we possibly can, so that in the future there are revenues available for us as we grow to make sure we take care of our Metro employees, because that is a high priority. I said I had two things I wanted to do in this budget: fully fund schools and give our employees a cost of living adjustment. The revenues simply weren't there. And that is the best answer I can give you, is the truth about where we were.
I think I have some idea of why we have a revenue shortfall, and I believe part of the reason is because we are giving cash payments annually and tax abatements annually in order to get large corporations to move into Nashville or to a different place in Nashville. And I think all citizens, whether they be corporate or individual citizens, ought to pay their own way and pay their own taxes. And I don't believe in paying people to move to Nashville and giving them breaks to be here. We're going to quit doing that. We're going to quit, period, subsidizing and giving payments to people to move to Nashville. And when they do move to Nashville, they do bring more people, and that requires more services. And if they're not paying their way, then we do have a budget shortfall. We're going to just simply quit doing that. It's going to take a while to get that back into balance. We're going to let the dust settle on all of this taxpayer-funded construction, abatements, and cash giveaways so that we can get our budget back into balance and we can give our employees the money that they need to do the job that we need them to do.
Let me kind of lift up the doom and gloom a little bit here. I've run 3 organizations and had to set the budget, had to trim the budget, had to make personnel decisions. It's different from making decisions from the outside. But one thing that I do know over the course of 30 years, anytime you have record growth and you have a shortfall, that is a question of priority and political will, simply. So if we can prioritize at a time when we're trying to push money on people to put in a dedicated fund for transit, if we can prioritize in 12 weeks putting together a plan, soccer stadium, 10-acre giveaway, for people who could afford to pay for it, we can find a way to hold the promises true that we made to our employees. So one of the things that we're going to have to do is sit down with the budget that's available, find where we're investing our pension and health funds, find where we're replicating services, and make the bold decisions necessary to take care of our employees first. Because when it comes to my kids and the people who are using our services, we have to make sure that they're going to be taken care of first and foremost.
Well, as in a somewhat like position as Mayor Riley, I've balanced many city budgets, and I also have the responsibility of running the St. Louis County Police Department. Okay, they answer to us. However, I also was in charge of the city employees. I never made promises that I was not sure, or we never made promises that we were not sure that we could not keep. As far as like increasing pay, employees' pay, the budget has to substantiate that. If it does not, or if it's in question, then we need, if we have made that promise, we need to find funds to make that promise good.
Thank you. I think once again, equity is the issue. We have to be committed to equity. And I say that for many years, the downtown, it was very, I grew up in Nashville. We know that 2nd Avenue for many years was not a place that we wanted to go to. It was very scary. But at some point, you do have to see, has there been enough investment in that area? And I think at this point, we have had enough investment in downtown. And we do need to look at other areas. However, I do think we need to honor our employees, because if we don't honor them, they cannot have they can't afford affordable housing, they can't have a good quality of life as it relates to the cost of living. I do believe that there are funds that we can identify. I've worked with some other council members, and that is looking at the pension fund and looking at the people who actually work with the pension fund. And we think we have identified monies to cover those cost of living adjustments. I think it's very important to honor our word, and I think the employees of our metropolitan government deserve to have a good quality of life. None of them should be making $12 or $10 and not be able to support their families.
So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've addressed it at a few forums, but in times of record revenue generation that we've been touting for a couple of years now since Nashville's grown, there's just no way you can have that kind of revenue growth and still have a shortfall without having some form of waste. You can have that through tax breaks, like Mr. Bristol said, and some other forms of deals, like the Cloud Hill development, where there was going to be a 100-year no lease deal done with the developer of that project. What we need, and there's also the practice that's pretty well known in government to unnecessary spending at the end of a term to prevent a budget decrease next year. So if we can increase transparency to restructure deals that are overfunded and put those monies towards other programs that are underfunded, then there's going to be a little bit more efficacy in the taxpayer dollars that are being spent to drive solutions for the community of Nashville. So I think we've got to come to terms with what's being spent, provide more transparency on how money is being wasted, whether it be Nashville's version of the Rand Paul report or whatever needs to be occurring. But we need to make sure we're changing our culture through efficiency and eliminating waste as much as we can.
I think it's very important to take care of those who protect and service. I think it's very important to take care of those who teach our young leaders in public schools. I think that if we implement maybe impact fees or reallocate TIP funds, I think that may be a solution to our cost of living allowance. I'm looking at this stuff with a fresh set of eyes. I have no political allegiance. I will be transparent with everything that I find out. As I do my research, we will find a way. We will find a way.
The plan to resolve our revenue shortfall for me would start with using my experience. I'm a House representative sitting on Finance, Ways and Means Committee, where we had a chance to look at every department's budget and really scan to see if there were evidences of waste being in there or if they really need the budget they were asking for. The second piece would come from my experience as the former director for 18th Avenue Family Enrichment Center, which at the time I took it over as a director was going through revenue shortfall, was about to close its doors. We had to find ways to cut expenses and then draw in revenues. And finally, someone already alluded to impact fees. In 1988, the General Assembly gave every county and city in the state of Tennessee the chance to impact development in a positive way by putting in new development taxes or impact fees. The only city that did not take advantage of this, to my knowledge, is Nashville, Tennessee. So we see all the development going on in Nashville. We look at the possibility of putting in a development tax to mitigate a lot of the impact that it has on infrastructure. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to use police department and fleet maintenance as my example here. If a police officer takes his car to the fleet repair shop to get his brakes replaced on his police car, that's a job that should take 30, 45 minutes. The fleet maintenance, they're sending these cars out to the dealers get done. They have to change cars, it takes the officer an hour or whatever to change cars. 2 weeks later, we get the car back. Metro's paid, I think, $400 to $700 for that job. And an on-staff employee can do that job for about $100. Parts, labor, everything out the door. And with that said, that's a big source of waste that could be cut and go to the employees' pay. And also, I want to make a pledge on the record, and I'm going to challenge whatever candidate wins this. I donate $30,000 of the mayor's pay if I win to the police department to hire an officer, to vice, to child crime, youth crime, whatever. I make that pledge on the record, and I challenge whatever candidate wins this to do the same.
Looking at it, I don't know a lot, but I'm thinking about the guy that got busted running that Ponzi scheme, and maybe there's similarities there because you're taking this money and you give it to that person. Oh, please join our crew. We're totally cool. All right, great. Now that you're here, after 20 years, if we can get a little bit of your dough, then maybe we'll get someone else. But I really don't know what's going on down there. It's like, where's the money go? Where's the bodies? What's up with all this back scratching, elbow rubbing, we're getting palms greased? I don't know what body parts are getting touched. So what I'm really talking about is we need to go to these corporate neighbors that we've given all this money to and be like, hey, we've got a shortfall. The rest of us are trying to tighten our belts. You think you want to be a good neighbor and help us out? You think you get a little bit back? That'd be great. So let's start with, that's the carrot, but maybe we hit him with a stick and be like, here's a living wage. All right, you don't want to play ball? Here's a maximum wage. Yeah, I'm crazy. No one's going to vote for me. It's all right. So I can say maximum wage, 50 to 1. No executive needs to earn more than 50 times their median pay in the company.
My plan for resolving the shortfall and providing for the Metro employees starts with getting elected on May 24th so that I can have an influence on the current budget. If it goes to a runoff,
the candidate who's elected at the end of June will not have an impact on the current budget. And one of the things that we do know is that there's quite a bit of waste. I believe that when government makes promises to employees, they need to keep those promises. And I already have people working on finding the $18 million that's needed to keep the promises that we made to the Metro employees. I'm also talking for people about where to find money so that we can fund some things that are needed, such as some of the youth programs that were cut out of budgets previously. I have a different set of priorities. There's been waste, there's been corruption, there's cronyism. I want to end it. Elect me on May 24th.
Thank you so much for answering our questions. We have 2 public questions that have been considered, and Susie Reese from Christ Church Cathedral is going to read those for you. Good luck.
Hi. I am not Susie Reese. I am not going to be reading the questions from the public. My name is Tanya Deborah. You see this program right here? There are a lot of answers from the candidates in this program. Because of the number of candidates, we could not ask the normal amount of questions that we would at a regular NOAA meeting, because it would have taken forever to get through, and we'd be here till next Thursday. So, the questions were sent to the candidates ahead of time. They are in here. Don't let all of our hard work go in vain. We want you to read all of this information, and we want you to share it with your friends and family so they will know who to vote for when they go to the voting booth. Thank you.
As previously stated, these questions have been submitted from the audience tonight and selected. This zip code, 37208, has the highest incarceration rate in America. If elected mayor, what would you do to address this?
One of the first things I would do is use I have 5 degrees, and it's a long story of what I do. One is in criminal justice. I have a plan for working with the police, the community leaders, the business owners, the activists, the teachers, and the students to design a program that would identify the young people that are headed in the wrong direction, that would send the right signals, and to begin to intervene community-wide to change the outcomes when it comes to criminal justice. So that's one of the things that I would do. And I would also, begin, this summer with trying to restore some of the programs that have been cut at the community centers, and to work with the leaders. Like, there are a lot of programs across the city where people are trying to do things in various churches to get together and see who's doing what and to support the best programs. And I come from poverty. I know how poverty impacts people, and I think that I can do some things that no one here can do because I've been there and I've raised 2 sons.
Yep, back again. So I'm going to hammer away the decriminalization of drugs and prostitution. Why don't we house the homeless? These are crazy ideas that are actually being implemented somewhere else. Let's take a bigger picture, because it's not just 37208's problem, it's everyone's problem. And there's answers out there that if we want to be bold and you want to be the crazy guy on stage, you get to say. So let's investigate some of these restorative justice practices that take away the involvement of the criminal justice system in people's personal lives, because then you end up with arbitrarily and inconsistently applied policy that ends up wrecking people's homes and causing chaos in families. And it's, nobody's doing drug busts in Great Hills, let's be honest. So we need to start there, because there's bigger social things that we can do that aren't just 37208 involved, but that can we can all engage in.
one of my ideas includes the fairgrounds. Let's bring back an amusement park. The last three mayoral administrations have been all about taking stuff away from Nashville, what we used to have that made Nashville great. You know, we used to have Fair Park. We don't have it anymore. We had Opryland. I don't know what happened to that. It's a mall now. So my idea is to give the kids something to do instead of running the streets. You know, and an amusement park would be a great addition to that. And you know, give it, you know, open the fairgrounds up more to have more events at the track, you know, racing and all that kind of things. And just, you know, different venues like that. That's one thing I can think of right offhand that would contribute to getting the kids, you know, give them something to do and keep them off the streets.
The Washington Post report that you're referring to about 208 strikes particularly home to me because I was born in 208 in 1972, 8 years before those statistics were drawn up. I would start by revamping the Mayor's Office of Neighborhoods into the Office of Neighborhoods, Nonprofits, and Faith Institutions to allow nonprofits to work better with the Mayor's Office, not gangsters. Programs like Bill Hawkins' Dance Instructions would have a direct line to the Mayor's Office and not have to try to get around and get funding through other means, but have a way to directly impact those in the 202 where I still live on Buchanan Street, trying to make sure our kids understand that they have value too, they have worth in our society, and they can be the best people they can be if we just give them support that they need in this day and age today. Thank you.
I don't think you can talk about it unless you live it. It's going to start one person, one conversation, one community at a time. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be dedication. You got to get out. You got to reach the people. You got to touch the people. You got to talk to the people daily. You have to start in the schools. You have to start at homes. You got to preach positivity. You got to look at what the kids are listening to, what they're watching on TV, what's important to them. You got to become them. You got to see through their eyes. That's the only way you're going to stop it, if it can be stopped. But it's going to take a village to raise our whole community.
So again, my entire campaign is centered around unification and strengthening of our communities. Only half my answers were received, but you can see my website in the criminal justice section. And my platform has a specific plan where I'm going to unify and strengthen our community through juvenile violence, which the main reason I got into this was the 12-year-old was arrested for carjacking. I have 2 sons in public schools, 9 and 10. So my national better, I told you, will incorporate National Nursing Association data to provide a provider versus survivor mentality to prenatal parent care. And I'll also implement funds from Governor Haslam's school safety program for grants to grow youth life learning centers for after school programs and leadership in communities that need leadership to employ teachers and counselors. My Barbecue Bridges initiative is going to create a better understanding between police officers and the districts they serve by having a monthly collaboration of breaking bread and barbecuing and having fun together. So people are getting together with people, no longer unknown faces behind closed doors or inside cars. We're creating a greater sense of community and bonds that can resonate long after this year term is over.
Thank you. It's such a complex issue to answer in 30 seconds, but I will kind of, 1 minute, okay, good. I will do it in 1 minute then. There's a couple of things. One is, I think, funding the program, the social emotional program that you have put forth. And that's very important because we know that students who do not know how to read by the 3rd grade will more than likely end up in jail. We know that they build prisons based on the kids that cannot read. So that funding piece is very important. That is a critical piece. The second piece is there are a lot of people that have felonies, and these felonies are simple things like driver's license. You know, it just builds up, and before you know it, they're in jail for a long time. And these are parents of these kids. So in my office, I would like to work with those people that have felonies to get those driver's license. We just waive those fees. In addition to that, we have to remove the boxes, but also give them the resources they need and work with nonprofits, those particular nonprofits that work with gangs in our community, and work with those as well. So I think between the nonprofits that we have, properly funding the schools, and working with the felons, I think that we could reduce that incarceration rate. Thank you.
That's it. I would look into starting a program 20 district, right? 208.
Right.
Okay. Basically, I would do my research. Research is always good to find out why the crime rate is so high in this particular area. We must start there. And then whatever resources that are needed to help or assist to make the community turn around, then I would fund them. Thank you.
The first thing we need to do is be honest. When we look at our kids and we hear these conversations, we say, what's wrong with our kids? We're blaming our kids for acting out, and our kids are just like us. 30 years of working with young people in building institutions. You don't need another youth summit. You don't need an Opportunity Now program that's going to result in the doubling of youth violence because it's ineffective. You need to recognize one thing about our young people. They're just like us. Why do adults act a fool? Because we're not being seen. This is where intersectionality comes into place. When you put plans in that create affordable housing, then guess what? Mama ain't got to struggle at $9 an hour, so the teenager goes on the corner to sell the dope to make up for it, gets arrested for a minor offense. And that's why it's always connected. So when we do that, and we put together a director, not a youth violence czar, but a director of youth life and prosperity, and we connect these areas so that we have nonprofits with a best practices manual with priority from the neighborhood office. We set reasonable objectives that allow us to set them up and knock them down. And that's the same way that you eliminate crime in Green Hills from Bordeaux to Bellevue. You pay attention to these kids and address their needs directly. And stop blaming.
Thank you, Justice. But can I ask you to briefly restate the question because I'm not sure I heard it quite correctly. I have 40 years of headphones.
The zip code 37208 has had the highest incarceration rate in America.
Okay.
What would you do to address this?
I would hire Jeff. First thing I do is hire Jeff. No, I'm absolutely serious about that, but incarcerate. I will, thank you. There are so many people, I mean, until you know why that's the case, you can't solve the problem. We have to figure out why these things are happening in order for us to solve the problem. And it could be the kids, it could be the parents, it could be the schools. I mean, there are so many people who touch these children's lives that could be the reason that this particular zip code has the highest incorporation rate, and it might be the police, who knows what it is. But unless you're willing to ask all the questions and challenge all the people who touch these children's lives, then and make them face their own shortcomings, we're not going to solve this. And everybody who has a stake in it and everybody who touches their lives has to be willing to make a change if a change in their activity is necessary.
So I think as Judge Calloway puts it, we've spent too long thinking about what's wrong with children instead of thinking about what's happening to them. And in 37208, what's happening to young people is there is a very low literacy rate in third grade. Very low, and we've got to do something to fix that, because if you can't read in third grade, you're probably not going to graduate from high school. And if you're not going to graduate from high school, we know that you're not on the right path. We know that. It's going to be trouble. So I'm committed to making sure we continue to invest in that. Additionally, we know that in 37208, there is tons of displacement. And so we got to focus more on affordable housing. We can't raise property taxes because that will have a really hard impact on people in 37208. Where even though we didn't raise the rate last year, people pay more in taxes because their values went so sky high. We've got to invest in jobs. That's why I've named a Minority Business Development Council. We got to invest in the Recruiter Center in 37208 so people who live there can lift themselves up.
I'm glad you read the question again, because the question is talking about the high incarceration rate in 208. Why is that? It's because our justice system is broken. When you get incarcerated after a second strike, third strike, remember what I told you, for the last 13 years, I've had over 1,000 men. I know a lot of people talk about kids, but the incarceration is happening to men. Come through my program, and I sit down and I talk with them and I say, go get that expunged. You know you can talk to the judge about that. You know you can get that right from your record. Because the truth of the matter is nobody changes overnight. But what we need to do is protect our people who are on the pathway to clear citizenship, to be respectable members of society. We have to cut them a break by working with them in order to understand the law, so that when they stand up in front of a judge, they're not being penalized for something that they did a long time ago.
Thank you all. The other question that came from the audience is, working families are dearly struggling even as new people and new money flow into the area. What are your top 3 specific policy priorities to ensure inclusive prosperity in Nashville?
I'll go back to something that I said a little bit earlier, holding corporations accountable. There are investment programs that work in other cities like Philadelphia and Dallas that require corporations to invest in the communities where their headquarters reside. That's one. Number 2, we need to invest again in home social programs. Remember what I deal with at home. My wife is a school social worker. So I get to see the angst that she goes through when she knows that there is a family that has a disparity in income. We can help mitigate some of that with programs. But when we keep cutting the funding for those programs, keep cutting services, it's hard to do that. I would put more money back into that. And then the last thing is this: we need to partner with the churches. Partner with the churches in order to provide job programs, job training, after-school programs that would allow parents to go back and get higher education. We partner with churches. There's money there that we don't have to spend. It's all about effort.
So the 3 things I would prioritize the highest are: 1, making sure that we have more and more Nashville families that have a chance to benefit in the growth, and that's why I named the Minority Business Development Council, so that people who have been deprived the opportunity to succeed for so long are given a really clear pathway to doing that. The second is workforce development. A lot of the jobs, including the Lyons-Bernstein job, a very high-paying job, we just don't have enough people here who are ready for those kind of jobs. The third thing is we have to keep growing. We can't be afraid to continue to move forward. So we have 2-point-something% unemployment right now, and that is giving a lot of people opportunities. If we don't keep growing, and that goes to 12-point-something% unemployment in our town, every problem we have right now with people being left behind is gonna get worse. So we gotta be conscious about the people being left behind, but we gotta keep moving forward.
Excuse me. Prosperity for all of the citizens will increase when the government consumes less of the citizens' money and leaves that in the hands of the people and their employers to do more productive things with it. So we're going to quit giving them money away to corporate citizens. We're going to quit giving special tax breaks to corporate citizens and make them pay their way. We're going to quit wasting money on things that don't work and borrowing and spending on things that don't work to accomplish the purposes we're trying to solve. We are going to find waste. We're going to find a lot of waste, some of which has been pointed out already here tonight, and we're going to keep taxes just as low as they possibly can be, so the citizens have the prosperity that they earn to spend on their own families. And those are the 3 things that we're going to do, and within 5 years, you're going to see a much more prosperous and growing Nashville.
All right, thanks. One of the reasons I'm running for mayor is because we absolutely need someone in the chair who is used to making decisions and looks at how things benefit the many over the needs of the few. The mayor doesn't write legislation, the mayor leads, and you have to be able to make these decisions. When you look at Nashville and what we're giving away, 3 things that I would immediately address: truly affordable housing. Of course, we talked about this, but we talked about TIF money. And why is Nashville, the downtown area, having an overlay that light money comes to? I think we'd all would agree that there are more providing money and funds for tax increment financing that can help young developers, innovative developers that are going to look for places for the elderly, the young people who are moving here, to look at neighborhoods like Bordeaux, in North Nashville, in areas that need development as much as downtown, so that we can have live, work, and play spaces that are truly affordable for people, so that we don't have to spend our time coming into downtown. We also need to tighten up the applications process in Metro so people aren't being jacked up over application fees for an apartment that we know they will never get. That's something that's been going on, and those are just quick things. Thank you.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Working families are dearly struggling, even as new people and new money flow into the area. What are your top 3 specific policy priorities to ensure inclusive prosperity in Nashville?
One of the first things I would look at is putting a clause somewhere where we can address African Americans or people of color with degrees on cash registers in Walmart. This is happening, okay? I also will look at the training, promoting the training for people that are low-income people, funding training sessions for them in addition to higher education. These are the things that I stand for. Basically, I think it's a shame, and I heard somebody over here mention that we don't have the people to put it in the positions. I think that we have the people to put it in the positions. It's a matter of race. The race is you're being almost profiled when you apply for jobs. That here in Nashville, it needs to stop. Me, myself, I may not sound like it, but I have 3 degrees. I have a doctorate.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. As I walk around the city and I begin to talk to people, I was very concerned about people in East Nashville that shared, look, I've gone to school, I've done what I'm supposed to do, and I'm still looking forward to an apartment. I'm looking forward to a house. You go to North Nashville, they said, look, I can't even afford a house here anymore, Erica. The taxes have gotten so expensive. What do we do? You go to Georgia, we say, we don't have any infrastructure. There's no infrastructure in our area. You've forgotten about us. So I'm running off of that. Diversity, inclusion, and equity for all of our city, all of Nashville, one Nashville. That's the dream that I have, and it's talking about affordable housing, transparency and accountability in government, and also public safety. And I do think as we begin to do more things and more developments, we can have community benefits agreements, which is something that I've been a big supporter of as a council member. But in the executive level, I can really push that forward, and that would really equalize some things for the citizens of Nashville.
So I want to get into waste. So if we eliminate waste, that's more money that a business has to invest in its company. That's more money that it can dictate towards giving a wage increase to an employee that needs it, or creating a job for someone that may not have a job in another sense. The more money we can take out of government's hands and putting it back in people's hands and the business owners, the more that that system can serve our population. We need to make sure that we're growing the right way. I know, for instance, the tax assessment was brought up. When I hear that we have a shortfall because the tax assessor's office didn't account for the appeals, that just tells me the government's not listening. They're coming up with ideas about considering risk mitigation, and they're expecting us all to just deal with it. So if we already have free community college, if we can come to grips and come together as a stronger community of Nashville and work together to eliminate waste, find ways to take care of people here, not worrying about attracting every company to Nashville, because they're going to come here anyway, because some companies just don't fit, especially if they're bringing 5,000 people from out of town. Then we can create jobs for people that are in Nashville and grow together as a community the right way.
When I was a kid growing up, when I went to Antioch, I felt like I was out of town. I remember when I went to Rivergate, Madison was one of the most prominent areas as well. I remember Heritage House Apartments had their flowers in front of the apartments, and it was real nice. Now those areas have been left to deteriorate. Bring commerce back to Antioch. Build Madison and Rivergate area back up. Spread the businesses out instead of just in the core. Help people that's been working hard all their life Nashville needs that now.
3 areas I focus on: start with education, Office of Economic Community Development, and infrastructure. Education, from this perspective, we have to do something about the fact that of our high school graduates, only 24% of them graduated from college. We must do something about that statistic. Infrastructure. D.B. Todd and Buchanan Street have to be some of the most poorly kept up streets in the city of Nashville. I've driven those streets almost every day living in my church being on D.B. Todd, and I get tired of the fact that I go to other parts of the city and the roads are smooth. But we pay taxes in North Nashville, but we can't get paved roads in our area. Also, to get the Office of ECD to focus as much on Buchanan Street border as they do on the Gulch. We're talking about allowing businesses to develop in there and stop this quiet redlining of people who want to start a business in Buchanan and can't get down to the bank.
All right, a lot of us have talked about government waistline, myself included. And I'm going to make my example earlier of fleet maintenance of like $300-400 over cost on the police cars for one brake job. That's crazy. You think about the whole entire metro fleet, how much are they wasting? That's huge. So that's one thing. That's one area I know for sure I would cut because I used to work there, so I know. And also, if let's say $1 million is being spent on improvements in Green Hills, why is it not being spent over in Jason Deaver Homes or in East Nashville or by East High School or somewhere? The money needs to be spent equally all over the neighborhood, all over the town, not just one little area. And that would be a big one for me as well.
All right, 3 things. Yeah, I got plenty, but I'll stick to 3. What we need to do, people in the corporate legal world like to tell you that corporations that's a fantastic concept. So why don't we just ask them to pay their fair share? Why do they get special treatment? It's bewildering to me. So I guess let's just start there. Like, yeah, you're welcome to join our group, but you don't get any special treatment. No, you don't get more cookies than the other kid. Just come here and hang out with us, and we're all going to grow this together. But really what we need to do is, beyond having corporations pay their fair share, we need to be looking at living wage, and we're looking at Fight for 15. But I'm also going to have this home too. We need to seriously talk about a maximum wage. You think I'm crazy? It's happening. People are looking at this because it's unsustainable executive compensation. And these are the people with money. They're not the people that need the money. And so I'm proposing 50 to 1. That's kind of pretty low now, but it's the way it used to be. So let's just start there, and let's have people pay their fair share.
The 2 things that I would do to bring about more prosperity for the citizens, one is I would emphasize the workforce development. I think we could do more with vocational education in high school. Not everyone belongs in college, and so I think it's important for us to keep that in mind. And I also believe that we need to support small businesses, entrepreneurship, because they create many jobs. When I talk about vocational education, I come from poverty. I was a high school dropout. I was one of 12, married at 16. I worked as a nursing assistant. I worked in a garment factory. I've sold things from door to door. I've been a sales clerk. I worked at a McDonald's half a day. And so I know about that. And so it was education that enabled me to become a university professor, getting that high school equivalency, going to a community college, and then continuing my education. And so there are many ways that we can help citizens be qualified for better jobs. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. At this time, I will turn the microphone over to Reverend Thompson, who will ask the lightning round questions.
Candidates, we, the members of NORA and the electorate of Nashville, thank you for participating in this public meeting. NORA believes that commitments to justice and fairness are crucial for the welfare of all citizens in the greater Nashville community. We now want to give each of you the opportunity to commit or not commit to NORA's platform dealing with affordable housing, criminal justice reform, and economic equity and jobs. We want you to give a simple answer, yes or no. Now, if you said yes, we had intended to give you only 30 seconds. Because we are ahead, we're going to give you 1 minute of closing remarks. But if you said no, no remarks, no seconds. And after all the candidates have given a yes or no answer, you will then have the opportunity to speak or not speak to the last question. And at this time, we simply want a yes or no answer.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Now the question is, what is the one thing about you that you want the voters of Nashville to know?
The one thing that I want the voters of Nashville to know about Carlin Alford is that everything that's been done in my life up to this point has been preparation for me to be mayor of Nashville. What I do on a daily basis is work with continuity of operations planning for states and cities and municipalities across this nation. Just because I'm from the private sector doesn't mean that I don't have experience in working with government. I do it every day. I work with some of the best transit systems in America. I work with governor's offices. My father was my greatest example. He was a regional director with HUD. He worked for the United States Commission on Civil Rights. I was director of the South Bend Housing Authority. The things that you should know about me can be wrapped up in one thing: Nashville first. If it isn't about Nashville first, I'm not going to deal with it. Only Nashville first. Remember that about Carlin Alford.
I'm David Briley, and I have the judgment, the experience, and the temperament to continue to lead the city under this unprecedented set of circumstances. It's unprecedented for obvious reasons, but it is also unprecedented because it presents us with a moment of great opportunity to do more for more people than we have ever been able to do in our community before. I will continue to fight to make sure that everybody has a chance in our city to reach their fullest potential. I will continue to fight to make sure that everybody's voice is heard before our city makes decisions. It's what I've done as a leader in this town for almost 20 years now, and I'm asking for your vote on May 24th, or early voting tomorrow or the next day, so that I can continue in the efforts that we all in this room believe in.
I would like you to know something that I can tell you. No reason you should believe it, other than one of these days you will. I'm a man with a good heart, an open mind, thick skin. Took a while to get this thick skin, but I got it. I believe that we're sailing through some rough waters, as all people have to on their way to smoother waters. We will get through this together. I have absolute faith that God will lead you to the right decision on May 24th, regardless of what that is, and if it's not, that I'm going to be your next mayor. This entire campaign and process has been a unique and wonderful blessing for me, and I will appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity that you have given me. I do have confidence that I am going to be your next mayor, and I think you're going to love it.
Well, I was always going to keep it real with you, man. And I'm just saying, I'm going to advise with John Sewell, however this goes, because John's the type who's going to tell you what he feels and what he thinks without caring what you think. And we have more people telling people that in their ear, they might make better decisions. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If you want more of the same, you can choose one of the great politicians that we have before us so we can continue the trajectory that we've been in. But if you want something different, if you want somebody who for 30 years has done everything from when he was a student funding Tennessee State University and making sure that we renovated that entire campus like they did every other campus in the state of Tennessee. If you want somebody who has actually built affordable housing that he gave and provided to the homeless instead of sitting on a commission to talk about it. If you want someone that has provided youth violence efforts that have 100% track record, then I'm asking you to take the theme of tonight, which is about racing to the future. Go to carfornashville.com, and if you're going to get in the race, the best thing to do is to ride with Car. Thank you.
I'm going to step up, and I'm going to take the opportunity to not speak about me, because it's not about me, it's about you. Okay? And also, I want to speak about the 14 candidates, or the 13 that we have present here. My agreement was to get on the ballot just to prove a situation to some people that believe that voting did not count. Okay, and I think I made that statement. I'm here, so your vote does count. But I want you to give kudos to all 14 of people here. They were wonderful, who stepped up and gave you the choice. You have an advantage. This is for 1 year. You can select one of the people up here, and this is a historical race, by the way. I want to share that with you. One of the people up here, and you also have a choice of all backgrounds. So good luck to every candidate up here, and thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank Noah for hosting this, and each of you that came out tonight. It's very important because we only have 1 month, and without a lot of forums, you don't get to really hear from us. So I really do want to thank each of you for taking the time to come out. I'm running for mayor, but I sound like Kermit the Frog right now. I'm running for mayor because I believe in the vision of Nashville, and I believe that we can be one Nashville. And I have a record of fighting for the people. When they were going to close Metro General, I said, no, you won't do it. And I reached across lines, and we were able to keep it open and keep it properly funded for the first time in 11 years. When the unions came to me and they said, we need a do-better bill, I said, I would co-sponsor that bill, so when we do development here, we can have more accountability and we can have a scorecard. I have heard you. When they said we will only speak English in Nashville, I said, no, we won't. And I stood up for that referendum as well. I am for the people. I listen to the people. And also they said, we want a community oversight board, Erica. I was only one of the 2 people out of the 40 people that voted for that. I have a record of listening to the people. I will work with you. Just like you, I want to see changes, and I know we can do it together. Thank you so much.
So I haven't talked about myself enough, but I've lived on almost every side of town, so I understand the many faces of Nashville, and I think now more than ever there's a calling for non-establishment presence in an establishment that's not effectively serving the people. None of us are going to get up here as much as we'd like to be and beat our chest and say one thing or another. You're not going to change the system in a year. But like I said earlier, what we can do is change our community, and we can make sure that we're a more unified, more informed community, and we're working together as a whole, because through working together as a whole, we'll demand a more transparent and a more serving system that creates opportunities, that listens to the needs of the people, and that suits the things that we need to have in Nashville and understands the things that are coming back. So we're not only going to educate ourselves, we're going to make the system more effective, because they're going to know more about what we know, because they're going to communicate with everyone every day. But if everyone in Nashville is communicating better, if we're preparing better, both in our homes, in our work lives, and everything in between, and getting to know our neighbors a little bit better, then we have a better chance to make sure that we're changing the city. And by changing the city, we'll do a lot better as a community than trying to say that we're going to do it for the government. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate you having me.
I want to thank you all for having us. I want to thank everybody for coming. My name is David Hyde. I'm running for the office of mayor because I feel that I have a better community connection than anybody up here. I've been a barber for 18 years. I literally touch people every day. I listen to people's concerns. I talk about their issues every single day. I was raised in this town. I've been here 42 years of my life. I've had many trials, many tribulations. I've conquered. I see where Nashville's going. I see what it was. I know what Nashville wants. On May 24th, I need your vote. Thank you.
Nashville has invested so much in me, from my K-12 education, starting with John Elementary to Vice High School, Tennessee State to Vanderbilt with my master's degree, and the chance to pastor a church in the city. I'm trying to give back to Nashville the opportunity to see all of our city grow together. I'm trying to help us understand that some communities have been left behind historically. And if you know something about that now, we're going to be left behind even more. I'm asking you in this 1 year left period to give me the opportunity to do that because I have the capacity to serve in a policy-making environment because of what we used to do with the state legislature from January to April, to do things right, do things good, to help everybody in our purview to get things done right. So I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for your vote as a son of Nashville who tries to get back to Nashville, which you've given so much to me. Thank you.
All right, as everyone's seen here, I am the worst public speaker here. I mean, I'll admit it. But don't let that don't let that thing make you think I'm stupid. I'm not stupid, maybe. I'm actually quite intelligent. Dr. Swain's got me blown away on that area for sure. But with that said, I'm born and raised in Nashville, U.S. Army veteran, went to Stratford High School, graduated in '84. And and you know, I've seen what Nashville's grown, and just like I said many times before, I don't like the way it's going and the direction it's going, and the government wasted the reform. I don't see that changing. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I think it's fair to say that I'm a new breed of candidate. But really what I'm going to say unpopular things, which isn't good if you're in a popularity contest. And so I get easily dismissed, and that's okay, but I'm trying to run a campaign on multiple levels because I want to have a little bit of fun with it. I don't want to just kick out some trite cliches, schools, sidewalks, without any substance behind it. So I'm going to get out there, and my goal here is to embrace, exploit, and expand the political arena. Because maybe I get out here, I take a couple of licks, I get vulnerable, but then someone else steps up that's cooler and smarter than I am, and I kind of kick in the door for them. So if I could remix a Jimmy Buffett line, I guess we need to have a change in platitude to have a change in attitude. And so I'm just waiting for the next person to step up, and maybe it's somebody in this room. I don't know, but it's on all of us.
Thank you for being here. I never imagined that I would be running for any political office. I was recruited, and I've taught political science for 28 years. I've studied it, political science, government, and law for 28 years, and I've studied it for much longer. And I have a blueprint for Nashville. If you go to my website, you will see my issue positions. They cover everything that was discussed here tonight with more detail. And I have also endorsements, local and national endorsements. I believe that I'm the best qualified candidate that is going to take an outsider to clean up Nashville. There's a lot of corruption, there's cronyism, no bid contracts, neglect of certain neighborhoods. It's going to take someone who knows what to do, how to assemble a first-rate team of people. And my motto for government is Micah 6:8. What does the Lord require? To do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before the Lord your God. Thank you.
Again, we want to thank these candidates, and we want to give them now applause for how they do. Just before we have a call to action and a drawing, I want you to see the people who have really brought about the success of Noah. We have 3 issues, which are the basis of our platform, and we have 3 task forces. The workers, the true workers, and part of our success is the relationships that we have built. I'm going to ask the persons, our chairpersons, and those persons working on these 3 committees. First, our affordable housing and gentrification task force. Those who work, will you please stand? Our chair, Pauline Coley. committed. These are the workers, and if any of you would like to be a part of that, you will see within your program, we have the dates that these task force meet. They just don't meet to be meet. They are very active, and they have helped to make NOAA a force in this community. And again, we want to thank all of you for coming. At this time, we will call for our call to action, and I will join with Reverend Lester and Miss Deborah.
Sisters and brothers, when Jane welcomed us here this evening, at the beginning of this gathering, she invited us to listen, to learn, to vote. In other words, to act. To act within ourselves, choosing who we will support. To act with other selves, inspiring them to act and acting with them. To act within our circles of influence, encouraging and cajoling and agitating. To act, refusing to let those around us who will not act rest until they do act. We act, refusing to go to the polls alone, taking with us at least one other person who has also looked and listened and will act. We act because power is good. We act because power is so good, everybody ought to have some. We act because we do have power. We act to build more power. We act to exercise power. We act expressing our power. We vote. We register others to vote. We educate others to vote. We organize others to vote. We act. We educate. We organize. We vote. We act because there are some crooked places to straighten out. We act because there are some rough places to make smooth. We act so that low places can be lifted up and some high places can be pulled down. We act. The question tonight is, Noah, will we act? And before you answer, to borrow from abolitionist John Brown, if not you, who? If not now, when? If not Nashville, when? Will you act? Will you vote? Will you organize? Will we build power? Will we share it because it's so good, everybody ought to have some?
We do want to make a commitment again, and you want to see that these 12 persons have made a commitment. And part of the commitment to our platform of what we call ACE, which stands for Affordable Housing, Criminal Justice System Reform, and Economic and Jobs. And one of the things with this commitment, we will hold you accountable, and that you have agreed to meet with us. And we believe in meeting quarterly with the mayor. And we will set that time with you to meet with us. And again, we thank you for making this commitment, and we look forward to working with the mayor. Ms. Deborah.
It's kind of hard to follow Reverend Lester. Noah's call to action is to educate you and to get you to vote. Who to vote for? I'm glad you asked. What you do is you take your self-interest. Those are the things that positively affect you and your community's well-being. And you match those interests against what you have learned, because education is key. You take those interests against what you have learned about and heard from these candidates and make your voice matter inside of that voting booth. You need to vote. Voting is the most significant act to ensure our democracy and social equality. NOAA's push is to significantly increase not just voter turnout, but educated voter turnout. As the educated voters are the ones who have the power to safeguard our democracy. Our call to action, NOAA stands for what?
Organized people is organized money. Nashville
I used to be a choir director. Nashville, organized for action and hope. The operative word in there is action. Thank you. It's all about the verb. What you say and what you pray alone usually produces very little results, if any. It's up to what you do. My shero, Fannie Lou Hamer, said, "You can pray until you faint, but unless you get up and try to do something, God is not going to put it in your lap." The something that you need to do with the information you've gathered here tonight is to practice your civic and moral duty and vote. I know it's late. I gotta wake y'all up so y'all can be alert when you drive home. All right? So we gotta get a little action going here. Sometimes we can get a little upset with elected officials. It makes us mad that we want to shout at them. But what we really need to do is vote. So instead of saying shout like the Isley brothers, instead of shouting and getting mad, we're going to say vote on cue, and then we're going to go vote. Early voting ends on Saturday. Election day is the 24th. Y'all ready? Yeah. Told you I used to be a choir director, so y'all need to come here right. Okay? Noah makes you wanna vote. Let's try it again. Noah makes you wanna vote. Educate yourself and vote. Take somebody with you. Vote. It's your duty. Vote. Get a friend and vote.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you, bro.
Wow. did you get?